Hello, welcome to this workshop on cohort analysis in Python from scratch in about 20 minutes. I am Nick Duddy and I've been using Python for the past 4 years or something now, maybe longer. I think it was 2014. And I've been mixing it with my experience as a marketer to make my life a lot easier to be able to handle the ever-growing data sets that we have in the world now. And yeah, I really want to share it with everybody and help other marketers like upskill like I have, particularly in these strange times that we're going through right now. So how I got here is essentially I've been a consultant. I started Menatrix about 6 years ago. It's a search marketing consultancy, so we deal with a lot of deep data, so we need to open very large files. But more recently, I've been focused on building out the Marketers Code community by making free online courses for anybody that wants to learn Python and as a marketer, particularly specifically aimed at marketers. And building a community in Slack that kind of helps anybody that might have problems or trying to learn new things and need a kind of safe space to ask questions where nobody's going to be like, that's a stupid question. There is no such thing as a stupid question. And in the coming months, there's going to be more content coming out, and I'll be providing a link where you can sign up, get access to the community, get access to all the setup tutorials for Python for whatever operating system you're on, and get access to those level 1 and level 2 Python for Marketers courses, which are totally free. So a little bit about me. I like making things. I like making things out of metal. I like making things out of wood. And I think that's why I'm attracted to Python, because I get to build things and they're reusable. And even if I'm not great at it, they're still useful, and I can just improve on them as time goes on. So I think Python and building things with my hands has taught me a lot of patience that I can then apply to Python, so I can start building more automation into my daily working routine, and hopefully you guys will see the benefit of that from after this talk. So Python is a general purpose language, and what that means is it covers a lot of things. You can build anything in Python, and you might have heard that Python being used in different contexts, like a website or data analysis or an API, and that's because you can use it for everything. So here's a good example. You could build an entire product with Python. You could gather the data through APIs, do the data analysis. You could create ML, machine learning models, build a database for that data, then create a CMS and a front end for a website, and essentially build yourself your own little SaaS, if you liked. But where I'm particularly concerned with Python for marketers is a little toolkit that they have here, and it's machine learning essentially, and data analytics and automation. That's where the real value is. There's lots of cool toys out there that you could use that are in Python, but you don't want to add to your workload, you want to reduce your workload and get better results. And the best way to do that is to investigate libraries like the ones in this table, and start learning how to use them and then how to automate them so you can do different things with your day job, as opposed to doing analysis and a lot of redundant tasks. So let's jump into Python. So what we're looking at here is a Jupyter Notebook, and a Jupyter Notebook is run in the browser. Now, I'm going to provide a link to sign up to get all this information. Essentially, if you sign up, it will send you everything that you need to get yourself set up with Python. So don't be too worried about this right now. You can always come back to this tutorial and check it out. So this original tutorial, in true coders fashion, I'm reusing somebody else's code because there's no point in building another one. However, I'm taking Henry Venn's code, and he's from Amazon, and I've augmented it for the purposes of this tutorial. I've added more notation, and I've built a little function so you can see what a function looks like, because we're just kind of starting to learn how Python works essentially. So already I have loaded in the libraries. So NumPy is a calculator library. So whenever you want to do anything in Python, you're going to have to import it first. So you've got NumPy, you've got Pandas, which is Excel for Python, but it's Excel on steroids. It's not Excel, if you know what I mean. DateTime, you can guess what that is. It allows us to manipulate datetime. Seaborn, which is charting, and Matplotlib, which is also charting. We've got a couple of other codes underneath that. So magic codes are specific to Jupyter Notebooks, and it allows you to do very specific little tasks without having to write code for it or take it into terminal. And in this case, this allows Matplotlib to create the charts or display the charts inside a notebook instead of opening it in a new window. Then we've set a couple of options with Pandas, because if you see here, we set Pandas as PD. So PD options, and I'm just saying here that we don't want any block on the rows. We want as many rows to display as possible, and I don't want any errors to show, because the way this code is written, there's been updates in Python which are giving us false flag errors when they're not actual errors. They're just the way we're doing it right now. So I've loaded in the data using Pandas, read Excel, because it's an Excel spreadsheet, and you can get this data set here by following, going over to Henry Feng's blog, and he tells you how to get the data set. Here I've built a helper function. So functions are reusable code. So if you do anything more than 3 times in code, build a function for it. And in this case, I always look at my data and explore my data, and you will do the same. And in this case, it just outputs a prettier version of what it normally looks like. So we're looking at what the data set is constructed of. So that's .info. Then these dividers just separate the actual functions. Describe, so that's statistical analysis, and shape, so that's how many rows and columns we've got. So if I've run that and then I run this, I get this little function producing this nice little table telling me how the data is made up. So objects, integers, date timestamps, floats. Statistical analysis, so how many are there, the mean, the standard deviation, the max min, the quantiles, or I believe there's percentiles in Pandas, and then the shape of the data frame. So if we remember this, because this is going to change in a moment. So with Pandas, you always need to clean your data. It doesn't take things for granted like Excel, so you always need to clean and tidy your data and wrangle your data. And that's what we're going to do right now. If you're using Python for data analysis, and you're looking at a new data set, you're going to find that this is what you're going to spend the bulk of your time on. So if I run this little function here basically says look for is NA, so what columns, how many columns have missing values, and then sum it so we can see. So it's best to show you in the output. So these ones have no missing values, but description and customer ID has a lot of missing values. So what we want to do, missing values just don't work for us. We're going to have to replace them or fill them. But in this case, we're going to replace them because it's easier for demonstrating. So how we do that is we use a drop NA. So if anything has not a number, we drop it, and we're going to drop everything that is a missing value in customer ID. And we're going to create a data frame, a view of a data frame now, which is the data that we imported earlier, but with the clean data. And if we explore that data using the function that we have up here, we can see that, actually, let's look here. So that's our original number. This is our new number. So we've lost quite a lot of data, but we still have a lot of data. So it's important to always visualize your data after you've made a change, just to make sure nothing has went completely turbo. There we go. That's kind of what we expect to see. Kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet, but if we use .head like we have here, it gives us the first 5 rows of data, just to give it a quick eyeball, make sure nothing is going particularly wrong. Now, munging and wrangling data. Again, back to the pre-processing of data. In Python, you'll do a lot of pre-processing, but it's worth it in the end, because once you understand and pre-process your data, then you can do very good data analytics with it, and also you're that step closer to doing machine learning. So what this first function does is it essentially gives us the year, month, and the year and month of the timestamp in increments of a day. And we'll look at what that does in a minute. And what we're doing in this column is we're creating a new column called invoice month, and we're applying the function that we created here to that. And what it will do is it will give us a new column of data. So that's running just now. And I'm going to run this. And what it's going to take a bit of time, because it's going to load all 400,000 rows, because we set that parameter at the beginning to show us all of the rows. And there we go. It's just taking a second to load. If you can imagine trying to load 400,000, it's impossible. 400,000 rows in Excel, it's just not doable. But here it is. That's all the data right there. And it only took a couple of seconds at most. What we're doing now is we're going to group by that data, and group by is an amazing function. You'll use it loads as a marketer, and you're going to group by customer ID. So you're going to look into customer ID, and you're going to then aggregate the data using invoice month, and you're looking for the minimum value. And again, it's easier to show you what the output is in this. If we run that, it'll be a couple of seconds, and then it will output again 400,000 rows of what that is. There we go. So it's difficult to see what is happening here, but it will come together. But as you can see, we have changes in the dates, but everything is the first. Okay, so you trust me that that has worked. And if we look at what's happened to the data frame now, so we have these two additional columns, and we're going to be working with those columns to create the cohort analysis. So that's the perfect time to start creating the cohort analysis. We had to create those two additional data sets to be able to do it. So what this function does is it passes the date time column, so in this case the invoice month and the cohort month, and then it extracts the year and the month and then the day. And we're only interested in the year and the month. So what we're doing here is we are saying create a variable. A variable is a placeholder essentially for a piece of data. So here's an invoice. Give me invoice year and then invoice month, and then we'll get a strange blank thing here, and it doesn't make any sense. Essentially, because we've asked this function to output 3 bits of information, we have to store the bit of information we're not using somewhere. So we're just using an underscore. You could call it day and maybe use it later on in your analysis, but there's no need for it in this analysis. So first, there's a perfect error there. So first you actually need to run the function, or Python doesn't know it's there. Python works sequentially, so you need to run one thing and then the other. There we go, that has worked. And let's look at the first. This little bracket here says just look at the first 30 of them. So if we look at the first 30, they're all 12. We would need to load the whole amount to see any differences. We're going to look at invoice year. There we go. Again, 2010, so nothing's changed. And we're going to do the exact same, we're going to use the exact same function, but we're going to use it for cohort month, and we're going to do the same again. You see how you can build one piece of code and then it runs, you can just reuse it and reuse it. So you spend that little bit of time building the code, and then you can reuse it again and again for like the next year or forever. So now we are creating the cohort index. And to do that, we need to create a variable called yearDiff. So that's invoice year and cohort year, which are what we created above. And it's 1 minus the other. So this is maths essentially. So it's one column, take away the other one. If I run that, ran super quickly. Again, think about doing this in Excel spreadsheets and how long that would take with 100,000 rows of data. And then if we just look at this, that's it running. So the little star here says I'm running, I'm doing something. And if we scroll down, we get ones and zeros, right? That's okay, that's what we're looking for. And now we want to create month difference, which is the same calculation as above, but with the month, invoice month, and the cohort month. So month difference, let's have a look. It's going to be the same again. There we go. Let me just remove this. So if we scroll through, there we go. It's got minuses, zeros. See, so we're building a data set here out of the data set that we had. And now we create the index column. So we're going to add to clean data cohort index, and we're going to use this calculation. So year diff times 12 plus month diff plus 1. And what that will do is it will give us the cohort index, and you'll understand what the cohort index is when you see it in a moment. So there we go. If we scroll down, yeah, we've got many different values in there. And I quickly just want to ad hoc show you what that data frame looks like now. So clean data. There we go. So we have cohort index over here. So we've created these 3 new columns in the data set. Now you've waited quite long, so it's time to show you how to actually create the cohort analysis. So we're going to be using group by and pivot table, both pandas operations. So group by, first up, this is your friend if you're a marketer. It's such a great function. So we are going to group by cohort and cohort month and cohort index by customer ID. And we're all going to look for unique. So that has created cohort data. So this has given us our actual cohort data. And what we need to do now is stick it into a pivot table to be able to see it in its kind of traditional sense. And to do that, we create cohort count equals cohort underscore data. So this data, put it into a pivot table, give it the index cohort month. The columns are cohort index, and the values are the customer IDs. And there we go. That's now starting to look like a cohort analysis that you've probably seen somewhere before. So this is the actual numbers. Could be useful to you, might not be useful, but if it's not useful, then we are essentially going to create a formula over here that gives it as percentages. So cohort size, so it's cohort count. So we're using the cohort count up here, and we're selecting all of the rows but the first column, so this one. And then we are going to create retention as a percentage metric. So we're creating the variable retention, and that equals cohort count divided by cohort size. So this here divided by the first column in that data set. And then we're going to round retention to 3 decimal places. And if I run that, there you go. Starting to get closer to what you would see in your analytics dashboards. And we've got percentages, so that's good. We've got nan values, that's fine. Nan stands for not a number. It is your frenemy, is a good way of saying it, if I can say the word right. Nan values are useful and at the same time really annoying when you're doing data analysis sometimes. So now we want to dress this up a bit. We want to apply a heat map to it to make it easier to view. So because looking at these numbers, it's not easy to see really what's going on. We would need to pay a lot of attention. Visuals are much better. This is where Seaborn, the charting application, comes in. And PLT is the PLT dot is Matplotlib. So we're using Seaborn and Matplotlib together to create charts. So SNS is Seaborn, and it's like, use the function heatmap and Seaborn, give it the data retention, give me annotation, and they're the important things. And this is the coloring, so you can change the color if you need to use brand colors or something. And then Matplotlib show the chart. And if I run this, boom, there you go. That is how you create a heat map using cohort analysis in Python. It's as simple as that. I'm going to show you another couple of examples. And the great thing about these examples is that you'll start to see how things just repeat themselves. So once you've got this nailed once or twice, it takes you a bit of time to get it nailed, that's okay. There's a learning curve here. But once you've got it nailed, you can start doing this stuff all the time. It's so much easier. So if we want to look at average quantity sold, let's look at cohort data 2. Again, group by, we're just changing the options for group by here, and we're looking at the mean. Then we're creating average quantity, and we're sticking cohort data 2 into a pivot table, and we're changing the values that we're using, right? And this time we're sticking the round on the end here, because you can put round in different places. And then we're going to pump that out. We're going to call average quantity, and it's going to show us what we've got. Again, just that's kind of what we expected. And then we're going to dress it up again using a heat map. Again, see, you get different values. So really useful. And then one more, so average sales, but in this case we need to create a new column for data. So we're having total sales, and total sales is quantity times unit price. Just to see whenever you create some new column or new data set, just have a look at it. So that's what I'm doing there. And again, back to the building the cohort using group by in the pivot table, just changing the values around, visualizing it as a standard table, and then dressing it up again using a heat map, again with different colors. So you can use blues in here, greens were here, where we go. Oh, it's a different name, but it's essentially green. So that is how you do data analysis in Python. And essentially, if you do tutorials like this, if you sign up to the forum that I'll send out, I'll show you how to get there. I'll give you all the tools, and I'm offering support in the Slack community to be able to help marketers code like this, because being able to build your own custom-made cohort analysis on large data sets is like, it's going to be game-changing for you. I mean, if you want to use, if instead of, not necessarily instead of, you can always use third-party tools and use their APIs and bring data in, but you can mash up, munch things, wrangle things in Python like you cannot do in any out-the-box system like Excel or G Sheets. You could maybe do something similar in BigQuery, but again, it doesn't really have, from what I've seen, the visualization tools. You need to use Data Studio, which comes with some issues. So I encourage people to learn Python. It's just going to make your skill set for the next 5-10 years like unstoppable. I'm seeing more and more job descriptions come out with, we want Python. And it's quite a difficult thing to ask for, because I don't think a lot of people have got it, but I'm going to try help you guys get there and get this done. So just finally, I just want to say that I think this link will be going out to you guys, or it'll be somewhere you can click on, but the Marketers Code community is here to kind of help you guys learn. And I really believe in this. I believe it's like the only skill to really have right now. If you have domain expertise or are currently learning marketing, if you bolt this onto you in the next few years, you're going to be like unstoppable. And whatever organization you go to, you're going to add tremendous amounts of value. Even if you're not building the things every day, you're going to have the vocabulary to be able to speak to developers and build tools and just get things done. So head over to that link, sign up. You'll get a few emails from me, essentially like showing you how to get actually started in this stuff. Also, you'll get a link to a YouTube channel where there's webinars and stuff like that happening, and more content up there. So hopefully you found this useful. Again, reach out to me in the Marketers Code community if you want to know more. I'm also on Twitter. Thanks for joining this workshop. Hopefully it was useful to you.